Before we start the podcast, a quick message, definitely not from sponsors. We said off the bat that we'd not monetize this podcast, and we stand by it. We do, however, face increasing costs that individual members are largely covering themselves, such as a full Zoom plan and a decent transcription service, along with the usual hosting costs. We will therefore ask you if you would like to contribute towards these via our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/gospod or by purchasing podcast merch at gosatan.com, then hitting the shop link and selecting GOSPod from the categories. Links will be provided in the show notes. We will categorically only use these to cover costs, and in the very unlikely event that we get more than we pay out, the remainder will go to the charities supported by our Satan Not Hatin campaign. If you can't afford to pay or just can't be asked, that's fine. We won't offer any lesser content to you freeloaders. On to the podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of GOSPod, the podcast from the Global Order of Satan UK. And this time I am joined by Leraje.
Hail Satan.
And Ligeia.
Hail Satan.
And Bohema.
Hail Satan.
And we'll be going through this is part one of a two-parter. We're going through the 6 pillars. We'll do the first 3 this time around and go into a bit of an in-depth analysis of them and what they mean to us. So if you would like to start us off with pillar 1, Ligeia.
Yes. So, pillar 1 says, self-fulfillment and personal understanding allow us to support ourselves and therefore others. That's the whole pillar. So, we are going to talk about what any of us think this means. For me, this is a big one. I am a woman. I identify as a woman, so I'm gonna maybe bring some points that are specific to me and how I see the world, how I experience the world. But basically, I will try to make it short for now. For me, self-fulfillment as a woman in this world is quite a challenge, because usually we are taught to see that through like serving others, serving the family, the kids, the friends, whoever is in your life. And I would like to see this as a complete different thing, because I would like to apply this pillar to me, myself, my specific person. This is how I do it. When I think about this pillar and what it means, this is how I want to see it. I don't want to see myself as a serving person. But that's beautiful, be there for the others. But self-fulfillment means I focus on myself. That doesn't mean I'm selfish, but it means I work on what is good for me, what makes me feel better in that day, whatever, and understanding myself helps me to actually know what those things are that help me to regulate, to relax, to stay motivated to do things that I need to do in my life. So basically, I would start with this. What do you guys think?
I mean, the way I see it, to put it in really simple terms, essentially what this means to me is it's saying to you, you are the most important person in your life, right? Now that sounds selfish, but the 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 immediate logical conclusion I take from that is that applies to everyone. So everyone is the most important person in their own lives, because you are you, it is your life. So inevitably, the most important person to you is going to be you. And that is not you putting yourself above others. That is you saying everyone else has that same right, that same prerogative to say, I am the most important person in my life. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because it doesn't mean, to me, it doesn't mean everyone else comes second. It means everyone should be free to regard themselves as the most important person in their own life. Because if you put others ahead, if you put something else ahead, some imagined Godhead, you are immediately putting yourself into a subservient position, potentially, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it can be extended to it's not only it's putting yourself first in terms of your own values and your own kind of like ethics and morality because you have to be true to what you think is right. And to allow that to be kind of co-opted by some I don't know, religion or some unreal or not scientifically valid opinion is it's not only to the detriment of you, but and this is the other part, which being yourself and putting yourself first allows you to be self-fulfilled to the point that you are in a better position to be able to help those closest to you. If you're not feeling if you don't feel that your particular needs are met, you're never going to be able to really truly help other people meet their needs too. Well, that's what I think anyway.
Yeah, I was going to get onto that just to, in a very extreme case, just to demonstrate my point. It's just, even if your life goal was to literally just serve other people and make other people's lives better, in order to do that, you still need to make sure that you yourself, in the first place, are happy and content and all your needs are met. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to support other people to your fullest capacity. So even if from that perspective, in a selfless perspective, you still need to focus on yourself in order to help others. That's how I see it. That's how I've been sort of taught it by other people, shall I say.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's in a certain sense, it's a selfish religion because it is about the self, and there is the underlying thing that if you don't take the time to fix yourself up, then you are going to be no fucking good to anyone else. So you've got to find your own headspace and consider yourself, and you can consider others as well, but don't put yourself in a position where others can, and it doesn't have to be a god or a religion or anything else. I mean, it's the state. It can be something as simple as the state. Your fucking employer, no, you're not subservient to them. You are a valuable person to your employer, potentially, for example. So you kind of like don't consider anything like that before you consider your own well-being, your own mental health, your own philosophy, what you believe in.
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, let's be honest. We all know there are other satanic religions or satanic churches that do take this idea of putting the self first, possibly a little bit too far, and it's to the exclusion of everything else. And I think an important point to remember about the pillars is that we actually do say that no one pillar should be raised above any other pillar. So this idea of putting oneself first is in balance with the other five, and they all kind of serve each other in that sense.
That's a good point, because I think it is number one, sort of just chronologically for a reason, which is kind of stating, look, this religion is about the self at its core. It's about the importance of the self. And then the others are like clarifying, but that doesn't mean you get to be a dick, right?
I mean, it is about the self, but it's not about the self to the exclusion of everybody else. Yeah, it's about making sure, as we've all said, it's about making sure that you are kind of like self-satisfied. Oh God, self-satisfied. That's a bad phrase. Making sure that you are, that your own needs are met. But not to the extent that you're kind of like stomping around like a kid in the sweet shop saying, "I want that one." It's about making yourself the best person that you can be.
Yeah. No, I do think that there is a distinction to be made between focusing on yourself as the main priority and putting others down
Yeah.
because you think you're better.
Mm.
There is a difference there, and I think that is the main sort of distinction to make there. Like,
Yeah.
focusing on yourself doesn't mean you're putting others down, basically.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a question of putting yourself first, but not being egotistical about it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that. And like I say, I didn't when we come on to the next, certainly the next pillar kind of clarifies the provisos, it doesn't just mean it's all about you and no one else kind of thing. But it is kind of, I think it's kind of important to lay it out at the outset, to go, this is not about any kind of worship or putting anyone above you, or putting anyone up on a, I'm going to say pillar now, but raising anyone above you in status. It's about saying, consider yourself first, and everyone has that right.
I think the other thing as well, when we do kind of like build ourselves up and look after ourselves, and we do help others. I mean, look at what we do within GOS. The campaigns that we do, the ritual that Ligeia did at Halloween last year. I mean, none of that is about. It's not about it's an ego thing. Look at me. Look at what we're doing with Satan not hating. Look what we're doing with bloody hell. Look at this ritual. It's about reaching out. Yeah. So even though these are things, but at the same time, these are things that we also find satisfying and self-fulfilling. Do you think that's valid, or am I talking out my arse? And
It's
you're allowed
perfect.
to say.
And yeah, I would like to just maybe say one more thing. If we mentioned religion, we consider our belief religion. We can get to that point at some point. Why? But from my understanding, our specific order, I'm not talking for other satanic orders, whatever groups, we as GOS, we don't structure the order in a like the usual religious structure where there is a head or like a group of people that are above and they set the rules, whatever, based on whatever. I'm not here to judge that. We don't have that structure. So even this pillar, I think, needs to be understood from our point of view as not being seen from like some authority being above, like I am not the authority, like you guys need to do what I need now. No, it is my self-regulation to know when I need a break, to be able to say it, to feel free to tend to oneself if there is need to have a break, whatever it can mean, or being able to refuse to join some activities or some projects, whatever that is. I think this is all included in this, and it needs to be understood from the point of view where I don't know what the shape is we follow. I don't think it's a line. Maybe it's a circle, maybe it's a pentagram, whatever. It's not like the pyramid. We don't have a head. We don't want a head. We can't have a head. We are all stubborn or whatever the word, maybe there is a better word for that, but I don't see how that would even work with us, because we are equal. We are absolutely equal. So please understand this pillar from that point of view. That's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. And there was something that you mentioned, Ligeia, right at the start, which is, talking from your perspective, i.e. a woman's perspective, going, in some circles it might be regarded as you're only really ever fulfilled as a woman if you kind of like, you have kids, you raise kids, you look after the family, that's what you're there for. And it's like, no, we don't do that.
I mean, it's all beautiful, but I just want to advocate for women or people who identify as that person that is more like the caring person in the family. It doesn't have to be a woman. I'm speaking for myself. As not feeling guilt when you tend to yourself when you need it. I want to really advocate this with my actions in my life and how I interact with people, with other women. It is such a liberating, beautiful feeling if usually women understand that that's not the whole purpose of my life. And I will end there because I can go on forever. So thank you for your patience.
No, absolutely. I mean, go on as long as you want to. This is an open discussion. But does anyone want to raise any more on pillar 1 before we move on to the second one? No? Leraje, take it away. Pillar 2.
Pillar 2. Oh God, I need to put my glasses on. Jesus Christ.
No, don't mention him. Wrong podcast.
You know what? Somebody said to me the other day, because I said that, and they said, that's not very satanic. And I said, actually it is, because I'm taking the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah.
There's nothing more satanic than taking the Lord's name in vain.
That's it. Just don't follow up the Jesus Christ with and pillar number 2 is thou shalt not.
yeah, cut that bit out. Okay, pillar number 2. Respect the inviolable body, autonomous will, and sovereign right of every individual to guide their own life and being, remembering that enjoyment of these rights is predicated on respect for the same in others. So that's a bit of a mouthful, but it to me, in the same way that Ligeia said that pillar 1 was kind of like at the core of the individualistic nature of GOS style Satanism, this is about how, and Lithos followed that up with the observation that it doesn't mean that everybody else doesn't have the same perspective or shouldn't have the same perspective. This pillar kind of like codifies that, or maybe codifies is the wrong word, but it's an expression of something that I think is at the core of what GOS do, which is that everybody has the autonomous right to exercise their autonomous will over their own thoughts, their own body. And if what you're doing as a human being affects nobody else in a negative way, then you should be free to do whatever the hell you want. And that applies to any number of situations which I think. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was I going to say?
I mean, one of the things that springs to mind, with the whole respect, bodily autonomy, is that appears so many times in so many different ways, and one that really springs to mind is, the whole anti-abortionists, and it's like going, my body, my choice is included in that statement. It is like literally anti-abortionist, get to fuck, you don't get to decide. And it applies to so many areas, but that's one that kind of springs to mind, with the bodily autonomy. It applies to so many other issues as well. The right to declare your own gender. That's bodily autonomy. No one else has a fucking right to tell you. No, you can't.
Nobody can tell another person who they are. Nobody can tell another person who they should love, and nobody can tell another person what rights they have over their own fucking body and thoughts. As long as, like I said, I mean, the second bit of that is predicated on the that everybody else is allowed to do the same thing. So there's that kind of, it's not a tension exactly, but it's kind of like saying it's fine for you to do that, but you've got to respect that everybody else can do that too. And I do think these things are at the core of what we do as modern Satanists. And it's kind of a pillar that possibly is very kind of like important in this modern age that we suddenly find ourselves living in, especially right now.
Well, it's basically, how the idea of, inviolable sort of bodily autonomy, kind of like, what your take on that is, the autonomous will and the inviolable body. We had a discussion beforehand about this. Who's going to do Pillar 2? And it's who can say inviolable without fucking up?
I can't. I couldn't read that one.
Well, I thought I could, not just managed not to.
Yeah, I kind of skipped over it by going inviolable.
I'm sorry. Okay, yeah.
So I think it's quite an apposite pillar, given the political situation in, particularly in the US at the moment. And we've had, in the last couple of months, we've had guests on from a couple of our US orders, and what's happening in America at the moment is, it's kind of
terrifying.
The opposite of Pillar 2, really.
Yeah. I don't want to go deep into that problem because it's a huge one. We could do the whole episode, but my body, my choice, my uterus, like people with uterus should be allowed, which sounds horrible. Of course, I should be allowed to decide what happens to my liver and my lungs and my uterus and my eyes. Well, like the whole thing is mine. But of course, people are like, oh, it's not the same. There is a baby growing. So we are thinking about that life that is growing and we forget about the life that is already here. I don't see how that makes any sense because the woman is already here. She has a life and we are not taking that into any consideration. Like, hello, I'm also having a life.
Yeah.
Like you, like everybody. So, I can't. Obviously, when the babies are born, I am here to protect every single life. But this is something that needs to be maybe more understood by some old people.
Yes.
You know
I'm an
who I
old
mean.
person. Yeah, I'm
Not
an
you,
old
not you,
person.
like more orange people.
No, I know
like
what you
that.
mean. I know what you mean.
More orange people.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, some old people understand it. You know, you don't have to. You don't have to sort of like lose your
You are a
shit.
young soul.
That's it. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
There's
So-
also in this particular pillar, the second bit, and I think this is equally important, the bit that says remembering that enjoyment of these rights is predicated on respect for the same in others. So people might think, you know, oh, we're Satanists. We just want to abolish all other religions and go, no, you can't. It's like, no, if you're a Muslim and from your own free will want to decide to cover yourself up, that is your free right. I will not contest that. I will contest it if it's forced on you by someone else. But if it's your own free will, if it's your own right, if you decide you want to do this, you know, you want to engage in acts of any kind of religious service, you are fully entitled to, and I will not hold that in any way against you. What I will hold against people and what we will hold against people is if they try and enforce that on others. It goes two ways, and that's the other important part of this pillar. It's saying this goes two
Yes.
ways, right? You want people to respect you and what you do, you've got to respect them and what they do, and vice versa, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does. And I think that's at the crux of the whole issue of religious-based law. You know, because the minute that you start introducing a religious component to any law, you're basically saying my opinion is better than your opinion, based on absolutely nothing. And yeah, I mean, it's like the thing about those. I can't remember what they're officially called, but the quiet zones around abortion clinics in the UK. Are they called quiet zones? I can't remember what they're called, or prayer-free zones or something. So people aren't allowed to protesters who are protesting against abortion aren't allowed to go within. I can't remember what the distance is. Is it 200 meters, something like that, of an abortion clinic? But they still do, and they're suing people based on saying, "Oh, you're trying to take away my ability to freely pray to my God." And well, no, I didn't realise that prayer only worked within a 200-meter radius. You know, if you want to fucking pray, go home and do it. No one's stopping you from doing that.
Yes, there was a case recently, certainly in the UK, where they were doing silent prayer, you know, within the whatever it's called, exclusion zone or safe zone, and then they made a thing about, well, you're stopping me exercising my religious right, and it's like, no, you're not. No one is. You can pray anywhere you like. You've got churches to pray.
Yeah.
You are not allowed to do any of that shit within this radius of an abortion clinic, because it can be intimidating, even just doing that, because there might be someone going in there who is actually religious and who is struggling with it but needs to carry it through. And just your act of sitting there and praying can also act as intimidation to certain people. It is it's basically
They
it's
know
a law.
exactly what it is they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Religion
It is an attack.
basically, you're not above the law, you know, and it's just a rule. And if you can't stick to that simple rule, don't make some kind of show about, oh, being cancelled or being imprisoned for your religious beliefs. That's bollocks.
No, no,
Yes.
no. And also, I think that to go for abortion is not as an easy or pleasant decision for anybody. So to poke another painful, I don't know, act into the whole process that some women, some people have to go through for any reason they have, that's nobody's problem, nobody's business, what the reason is. But for these people protesting in spaces that they are actually heard, and it's the connection is clear, like, oh my God, we are so much better than you. I want to shout and scream and just do something really bad. I am not going to, okay, I'm not going to, but like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Where is the entitlement, the righteousness of some people thinking they can do this to other human beings who are going through some other painful thing, and they just come there and show them like, listen, can you see me? I am above you. I would never do this. I am so much better, and I want to be seen. Even if you take pictures of me, I would like to be on like any sort of news, whatever. They would want to be there because this is like, I am just so good, so much better than you, and I can't do this. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm babbling, but this is really triggering me, and I will mute myself.
No, I fully understand it, and it is performative. It is, that prayer is very performative. You know, it is like you are kind of doing it to hope that the police would turn up, so that then you can go, oh, I'm the martyred Christian. Look
Yeah.
at me. All I was doing was praying. And it's like, no, you don't fucking understand that to turn up at a clinic like that, it takes, like Ligeia said, it's not an easy decision.
No.
You know, and it's not an easy, people think, oh yeah, you turn up and then, you know, 5 minutes later you're out, and it's like there's no difficulty, no psychological, mental, or even physical agony involved in it. Bullshit. Bullshit. They've agonized. Every woman who turns up there's agonized over it. And, you know, and to have some performative arseholes stand outside and pray, they are fishing for an arrest, so that they can go back to their idiot friends and followers and go, I have been victimized. Look at poor Christians.
They can be heroes in their church or in their little group.
Yeah. And funnily enough, these are the same people who complain about lefties virtue signalling. And yet, here they are doing the absolute definition of virtue signalling.
Yes. So
absolutely.
Fuck a lot of them.
No. Okay. Yeah. Maybe with this I would just, one little thing that might not even seem to be connected, but in my head it makes sense. So forgive me if it doesn't. With the autonomy, I follow like true crime cases. Maybe it also comes from me being like scared of people hurting me, blah blah. So I always pay attention to where it's like a couple dynamics, and I would just like people to maybe pay more attention to exactly the red flags in their relationships. It doesn't matter if it's a guy and a girl, or two girls, or five guys. Oh, no pun intended. 5 guys. Okay. That was nice. Maybe you should say something else so we are not sued. 4 guys. Okay.
Feel hungry now.
Whatever. I know. But I don't even like them. Whatever. But you know what I mean? Like the red flags around how your autonomy is being respected. Because this is really a big thing in your everyday life. If you set your boundaries, your healthy boundaries, which doesn't mean that you are taking anything away from other people around you. That's not that. Healthy boundary is telling people where your boundary is around you, what is comfortable for you. It can be changing. Some days you allow people to come closer, some days you need space, whatever it is. You set your healthy boundaries. That makes relationships happy, lasting, healthy, working, whatever. If your partner doesn't respect your boundaries. I'm not even saying like physical things, like somebody would actually be physical with you or violent. That's an extreme. But little things, little details, your privacy, your passwords, your phone. If you don't wish your phone to be on display to the whole family, to your husband, to your wife, it's normal. I don't share my phone with my family. If people in your home don't respect this, pay attention, people, because it's not going to get better. Either
And that really
work
goes
on your
back to pillar one
boundaries.
as well.
Yes, it's connected. Yeah, I just wanted to wait for this one, and I was thinking I will say this because it can help many relationships. Maybe sometimes people don't do it like on purpose, but please be careful with your autonomy, pay attention to it, and never allow anybody to step on your self. You know what I'm trying to say. Okay, that's all.
An excellent point. An excellent
Yeah.
point. Well made. Absolutely. Right. Do we have anyone else want to raise any other issues regarding this pillar, or shall we move on to 3?
Yeah, let's move on to 3.
Let's move on to 3. Bohema, take it away.
Right, so the third pillar is science, evidence, reason, and critical thinking should guide our beliefs about our universe. Truly critical thinking can only be achieved by challenging your own preconceptions and opinions, providing a more balanced outlook to help us make better informed decisions. So, I mean, I think this one is relatively self-explanatory, but I think it is a very important one in terms of well, it really relates to mostly, obviously, people come up with explanations for things that they can't understand. That's just how people work. So that's been happening for thousands and thousands of years. Some of these preconceptions are still common belief today, despite us being much better at finding out why things happen. So obviously we can find out scientific reasoning behind certain things that still have these old world preconceptions that we can't let go of. This pillar kind of goes against that, saying, hey, if there's clear evidence saying that this is why this is happening, then unless you have evidence to prove otherwise, you should probably go with that because it doesn't make sense to not believe that. Such as, I don't know, for example, the Bible existing. We don't have evidence for that. Like, well, not the Bible existing, but like the Bible being true. This sort of thing. We can't verify that. So there's more evidence pointing towards there not being this person who could split seas and another person who got given some rocks with words on them from the skies because she felt like it. Whatever, this sort of stuff. That, like, there's not evidence for that. There is evidence for evolution. There is evidence for the Big Bang. So, maybe believe the thing that has more evidence behind it rather than what people tell you to believe.
Yeah, it's always confused me why religious people do that. Why did you say that your laws came from a dude getting rocks from a burning bush? Why just make up something plausible at least? I mean, just if you're going to bullshit, at least try and make it a bit plausible. Yeah, they got it from a fucking burning bush. Are you off your head? What's wrong with you? Sorry, that's my own little thing. Yeah. I think the thing about this pillar that I really like is the reflection on science and the recognition that science is a process, not just a thing. People sometimes say to me, "Oh yeah, your science said that 500 years ago the sun went round the Earth and the Earth was the center of the universe." And it's like, well, yeah, it did, because that was the best available evidence at the time. That doesn't mean it was right, but that was the best interpretation that people had based on the available evidence. And then as more information becomes available, those things change and we end up with what we've got at the current time.
Exactly.
But, I mean, you have to base your interpretation of how things are on the reality that is around you. You can't just make up any old shit.
Yeah. And we are not at the end of the science. Like, we are
No.
here currently. We know this. I personally know and think and believe in 100 years, people might be laughing at the stuff we consider scientific today,
No
which is
doubt.
completely fine. For example, like proper maps in the past, how many countries or continents were discovered or rediscovered, if you ask me. They were following the map they had, which was completely wrong, or not completely, but almost completely wrong. But that was the best they could do. And because of that, they did something and followed the information, not some made up story. They followed the information that they had. They were able to find something that was helpful to make the maps better for all of us. You know what I mean? Like that process is about the steps we make based on the science we have, but it can also lead to something that will better the science or the results we can get. So I don't understand how like the big things, the big decisions that need to be made, still there are people who base it on like tradition and the stories they were told. I'm not saying the stories, they can be pretty, they can be like romantic, but please, when we're talking about the earth or like medicine, please, can we please apply science and like real facts that we can actually go back to and reprove whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is down to people not understanding the scientific method, right? It's really simple. The scientific method is you see things happening, you see a pattern, you try and come up with a theory, a hypothesis that explains the way things happen, and then you go about finding things that don't fit that pattern, and then you go, right, that theory didn't work, we'll have to come up with a better one. Right? It is actually coming up with a theory and then trying to find things that break the theory you've come up with. Coming up with an idea or a theory and then trying to find things that prove it is bad science. That is what flat earthers do. Literally, flat earthers have got the idea that the earth is flat and then will try and do really piss poor experiments to prove that the earth is flat. And it's like, no, real science says, no, I've just done one experiment here and that proves the earth is not flat. So your theory doesn't work. The scientific method is about coming up with a theory and then trying to break it, basically trying to prove, no, that's not the theory. That's why they keep changing. And there is that bit in the pillar about, you know, you've got to examine your own preconceptions. Don't assume that you know everything. That is the scientific method, right? That is why, you know, Ligeia, when you're saying, it changes all the time. Of course it changes all the time. And I remember a few years back, I saw Dara O'Brien, the comedian, do a routine, and people say, well, science doesn't have all the answers. And he goes, well, of course it doesn't. And it knows it doesn't, because if it did think it had all the answers, it would just fucking stop. Like fucking religious belief has done. It has stopped at the Bible.
Exactly.
And not gone any further. Not gone an iota further. You know, that's not science. Science is consistently and completely re-examining what you've come up with and trying to find better molds. Sorry, I might rant about this.
No. It makes sense. I love it.
I have a degree in science, in physics, and it is like...
It's obvious.
You know, and the scientific method, you know, as soon as you get into it in any depth, the scientific method is drilled into you. You don't fucking come up with some dumbass theory and then do an experiment that seems to prove it and go, oh, I've proved it now. fucking idiots do that.
Yeah. And you can actually, the beautiful thing is, if somebody is questioning it, the result, you can actually take all the steps back. There are steps you followed.
Yeah.
It's not like I pulled it out of my toe.
You can say arse if
You
you
know?
want, like.
Yeah, but toe or ear, whatever, from the earth, the
But
flat earth.
That's
I
a
don't
very
know.
good point, because the scientific method says that, or good science is based on the idea that it's reproducible. So if someone writes a paper and submits it to Nature or whatever, and it gets accepted, that means it's gone through peer review, and they've
Yeah.
presented not only their hypothesis and how they tested it, but also the data that they used to test that hypothesis. And not only that, but also the methodology they used to examine that data to test the hypothesis. So everything that is needed to check their work is included. And that means
Yes.
that any other scientist in that field can go away and reproduce that. And
Yes.
they can say, oh, hang on, actually, you got that bit wrong. This is what it should be.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And that's how science progresses.
Exactly. But you can't do that with religious text usually.
You can't. No.
Because it's based on your belief, and like, if you don't believe something in there, like, first of all, why are you questioning it? Why are you questioning it?
Yeah.
Because this was what I heard my whole childhood, like, oh, no questions allowed. That's sin. You need to go and talk to the priest because no. So I don't know. No questions. Just that's the basic stuff. Don't ask questions. And if there are questions, then they tell you, well, you can't take it like literally. It's a speech of like pictures and metaphors. And I'm like, well, this is beautiful, but then it can't be considered nothing else than fiction for me.
And we can't base a whole way of living on a fiction.
Yeah.
And well, we can, but it's not going to be very pleasant to live in.
Well, it has been tried.
Yeah.
We can see where it went.
Exactly.
It's like, yes, there's a big pile of dishes next to the sink. You just need to have faith that I did the dishes. Ignore the pile of dishes there. I did them. You just need to believe me. And if you don't, then you're going to this imaginary place I invented with fire and lava and whatever, and you'll be punished for eternity.
And stop
looking in
asking.
my kitchen.
Yeah.
What are your questions? Just believe me. Also, the person, the creature or whatever, the character in the Bible is above you, so you can't question them. I can't even find the word. The cloud guy, the
God knows everything.
watcher in the sky.
He is omnipotent. He is omnipresent. And it's like, well, what's the point of doing anything then? If he knows everything and does everything and is everywhere at all times, what's the fucking... Why do we live in this shit world? Why isn't it great?
Yeah, because he's a sadist. That's why.
Yeah.
And there's also the thing, I'm sure people will say, in answer to when I said earlier, religious belief has stopped at the Bible and has gone no further. People will say, no. And now, it's come a lot further, and it has come a lot further because of science. Because initially, when it was proposed that no, the sun does not revolve around the earth or sit in a sphere above the earth, we revolve around the sun, it was the Pope and his followers who went, no, keep saying that and we might do something really horrible to you. And, the reason why now clerics and even the Pope believe, yes, the earth does revolve around the sun, the universe is massive, is not because of anything that was in the Bible or anything anyone who did a copy of the Bible said or any religious person said. It's because of fucking scientists, and they ended up having to listen to them because they had no choice, because they were proven wrong. And they've just jumped on the bandwagon. But hey, that's the history of Christianity, isn't it? We'll just take other people's ideas and claim they're our own. We'll take a Christmas festival, we'll take Yule and stick a Jesus on it, and now it's Christian. We'll take the festival of fertility and stick a crucified person on it. How fucking grim is that? Sorry, I'm getting onto a rant here, but the only reason that religion has come on and now actually religious figures believe in what is actually happening is because of science and because they have not been able to refute it with their stupid little pissy book that was written millennia ago and mistranslated again and again and again. It's bullshit. There's some nice stories in there. There's some horrendous stories in there. It's a fiction. It's fucking grim. It's full of paedophiles. It's full of rapists. And it's full of slavers. And it's time that we fucking did the satanic ABCs. B, Bibles are for burning. B.
I would just like to say I have a merch idea. I want a t-shirt with Stick of Jesus on it. That is perfect. I love that.
I love it. Yeah.
Nobody expected the Spanish Inquisition, but they still got it.
Yeah. And all the crusades. We can't even start this. It's amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
Yes. So, yes, we've come around to science, and I think it's a very important thing not just to state to everyone the obvious, science and reason above all else, but also to actually state it to Satanists and go, when we get together for a ritual and, we light black candles and we put on our robes and we go, we are now calling on Lucifer and we're opening the gates of hell. This is metaphorical speech. It's a metaphor. We like the ritual. We like the performance. We like the language. It's metaphorical. We are not raising demons. We will never raise a demon. We don't believe in any of that shit.
They don't exist.
But we do like to put on a good show that we enjoy. As in rituals of self-enrichment and self-fulfillment that are full of metaphor. Yeah, full of metaphor. And it is literally metaphor. And if people who read the Bible realised it's all just metaphor, maybe things would be a bit better. But hey-ho, it's God's truth, isn't it? Never written down by man.
That lies at the heart of it, the inability to separate metaphor from the reality of how life is. I think what, like you said, what we do when we kind of like put our robes on and hail Satan and all that, we don't believe in Satan. We don't believe in devils. We don't believe in horoscopes. We don't believe in fucking fairies or any of that shit. But doing that is not only the things that Lithos said, it's also a way for us to have a community together and do things communally, and that what we would like to have is the ability to separate that kind of like metaphorical thing with the reality of life. So to take it back to something that somebody, I can't remember who it was said earlier, that none of these individual pillars are higher than any other. They all kind of like work together as a system.
No, that makes sense. And none should be taken higher than the other. You are, of course, free to have a favourite. Generally, people do have a favourite, as in, this one speaks to me more than others. But
and there's also going to be times in your life when one feels more relevant to your particular situation.
Yeah.
But they are all, to be taken equally, and we will get on to the final three in the next episode, which will be the next but one episode.
Yeah.
In May, I think.
I think the next one we've got planned is horror movies, isn't it?
We'll talk about movies part 2.
Because
we try again.
Well, we did kind of realise at the end of the last one, the horror movies we talked about were largely Western white horror movies based in Europe and the States. And there is a whole massive genre, and there are subgenres that are quite different. from all over the world, and we should really look into those in more detail, because, you know, it's all very well going the classics we all remember, but hey ho, there's other countries doing some really fucking good horror out there, and, you know, we've seen them, and it's worth examining that, not from a Eurocentric perspective, you know.
I'll try not to bang on about fan footage movies too much this time.
Well, there are fan footage movies from all over the place as well.
No, there are. Yeah, no, there absolutely are. It's just that I tend to get obsessed with fan. I am absolutely obsessed with fan footage horror.
Oh, me too.
Although I did watch The Monkey. This doesn't have to make it into the podcast, by the way. I did watch the new Monkey movie based on the Stephen King, and that is very, very good. It's very funny. I recommend
Is
it.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have to watch that.
Good to know.
So, have we reached a natural conclusion here? Sorry,
think
I had a
so.
couple of rants there. I'll just kind of
No,
We all
please
did,
don't
didn't we?
apologize. We need passion here. It
Yeah.
was good. I loved it. Please don't apologize.
Can I just say a little bit at the end? I was thinking about what I was going to say about Pillar 2, and I remembered a bit from Shelley's Prometheus Unbound about not just about Pillar 2, but why we have pillars. Can I just do a little bit of a quote?
Oh,
Is that
please
okay?
do.
Absolutely.
Can I
Yes,
indulge
yes.
myself?
Go for it. Go for
Yeah.
it. Let's have some Shelley.
All right. So just to set the scene, Prometheus has been imprisoned and tortured for giving knowledge to humanity, or, you know, fire. And he receives a visit from Mercury, who, as we all know, is the messenger of the gods. And he is bearing a messenger from God. If Prometheus will give up a secret that he knows about God, God will prevent him. God will prevent his torment. So Mercury says, if they might as dwell among the gods the while, lapped in voluptuous joy. And Prometheus answers him, I would not quit this bleak ravine, these unrepentant pains. And Mercury says, alas, I wonder at, yet pity thee, patronising bastard. And Prometheus replies, pity the self-despising slaves of heaven, not me, within whose mind sits peace serene. As light in the sun, throned, how vain is talk. Call up the fiends.
Wow.
Oh, well, that's a
That
good one
was
to end on.
something.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like it's Prometheus saying to Mercury and saying to God, I would rather suffer than go back to heaven and live in your bullshit, basically.
Yes,
Beautiful.
which is, yes, the story of Satan himself, herself, themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Shelley was using Prometheus as a kind of like satanic, as a substitute for Satan in that poem. So it's, yeah.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
Well, we've ended on some proper poetry there, which makes a change from swearing.
Well, we can do that too. Fuck.
Yeah. Fuck.
I am very good at that one.
Go on.
You just say go on.
Yeah, go on.
It's gonna be another few hours if you if you let me do that.
Ah, excellent. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. There's more to come, like we've said. And in the interim, from each one of us, stay well and hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
Our usual thanks to friends of the podcast, Matt and the guys from Hearst Pileup, for letting us use their music as our theme tune. Why not check them out on Bandcamp? And while you're at it, why not check out our compilation, the proceeds of which go to charity, and it's called Contra Odium, from the Satan Not Hating campaign. As usual, if you have any comments or you'd like to suggest topics for future episodes, please email us at gospod@ghostsatan.com. That's GOSPOD at GOSATAN.com. And in the meantime, be well, hail Satan, and thank you for listening.